Yo, what's up, people? This is Shelvon with Gaming and Culture Television. Today, we're going to check out Nerdrotic's new video, and it's called Marvel Commits Mera Suicide, Fans to Blame. All right, so let's see what Nerdrotic has to say about this.
It comes down to the cast, and with Jonathan Majors, who I think took over the Hall H stage, you know, in the 3 minutes he was up there. It's amazing. And I said to him, there's nobody I would rather be, nobody's shoulders I'd rather be putting the Multiverse Saga on than his.
All right, to be fair, Marvel stuck around with him longer than everybody else did. Everyone that he was doing anything with, from commercials, from the army, and like movies or whatever, dropped him like a hot rock as soon as the allegations first came out. So you had got to at least give Marvel that.
It was amazing to work on a film with 3 lady heroes, a badass lady villain, and many lady department heads. Female producer, female director. It was pretty great.
All right. So each one of those ladies that you saw has basically been disavowing this movie as much as they possibly can, except for maybe her. But everybody else, nah. I think the director dipped out before the press tour was over with. She might have left during the actual editing of the film. So yeah, I don't think it helped them out too much. But
would you guys be up for a sequel? Absolutely, but that's up to the Sony gods.
And the Sony gods say no.
Nerdrotic.com.
Greetings, you over 980,000 awakening wonders and the 40% who haven't subscribed yet. It was the great Albert Einstein who once said, I'm going to paraphrase here, insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again and expecting different results.
Marvel Studios is taking stock of their strategy following the poor performance of the Marvels.
That's an understatement.
Well, on the surface, it would seem that our friends over at Disney Marvel have finally come to their senses, or at least that's what they want you to believe. Because we're starting to hear terms from the access media like retooling or stepping back to focus on stronger franchises. Well, far be it from me to kick a giant billion-dollar multinational corporation when it's down. Oh, who am I kidding? I love doing it. Let's see how Disney Marvel plans to completely retool the MCU with the same tools who created the problem. But first, let's check in on Marvel's Madam Web's box office numbers. Domestically, it's earned just over $35 million with an international box office of just over $42 million, bringing in a grand total of just over $77 million.
All right, so for those who don't know and who don't know how the box office works, this number is not the number that Marvel is going to get. What they get is, I think, 40% of this and 60% of this. So, and if any of this number is from China, they only get 25% of that. So yeah, this is not exactly what they get. And when they try to fudge the numbers to make it look like a movie has made more money than it did, they kind of leave that part out.
That's right, this film might not make $100 million worldwide. And at time of recording, the film has only been out 13 days, and on its second weekend, it averaged per theater $403 for Friday, $666 for Saturday, and $405 for Sunday, pulling in a grand total of $6 million for its second weekend.
I think you're going to see it twice.
And I can hear the Disney Marvel corporate stance now. Madam Web is a Sony picture. It doesn't have anything to do with Marvel. I mean, aside from Madam Web, all the Spider-Women, Ben Parker, Mary Parker, and Ezekiel being Marvel characters in the Marvel Studios banner before the film, sure. And as I pointed out in my Madam Web review, both Dakota Johnson and Sydney Sweeney thought it was a Marvel Studios production.
I forgive you.
The fact of the matter is most normies can't tell the difference, and quite frankly, the people who watch this stuff a lot can't tell the difference, like yours truly. Tell me, is the Marvels better than Madam Web? No. The lines have been blurred, and the brand damage has been done. Still, it's no secret Disney Marvel hates Sony Marvel Productions outside of Spider-Man for precisely this reason.
Currently, Marvel and Sony are in negotiations to figure out the future of the Spider-Man, the next 3 movies. I think Tom Holland signed up for 3. From what I've heard today, Sony wants to do another Spider-Man 3 with the multiverse and people from all over the place. And Marvel, rightly so, doesn't want to do that because people are getting tired of the multiverse. And just because they like that one for the because they brought back the OG Spider-Man, right? You know, also Marvel wants to kind of shoehorn Miles Morales into these movies. I'm not exactly sure how well that's going to go over because Peter Parker is just out of high school and I'm not sure enough time has passed in order for him to be mentoring anybody yet. The reason why it worked in the Spider-Verse movies is because that Peter Parker has been Spider-Man for a long time. So he had wisdom to give to an up-and-coming superhero.
From The Hollywood Reporter, inside Sony's Madam Web collapse. Forget about a new franchise. The fact that they thought they could get a new franchise tells you how stupid people in Hollywood are. The flop is wiping out an entire plan for a new movie series as the studio becomes the latest superhero studio in need of a pivot. How exactly
Corporate
do all
speak.
of these monolithic corporations that require 6 meetings just to have a meeting, who all have their cinematic universe release dates planned out for years and coordinated to boost quarterly earnings, pivot? Don't know. The trailer buzz was worrisome. Advanced ticket sales anemic. Then last week, the critic reviews for Madam Web were posted, and they stung deepest of all. Sony's Spider-Man spin-off received the lowest average Rotten Tomatoes score, 13%, and it's still there at time of recording, of any major superhero film in nearly a decade. Just a reminder, not that you need it, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's fun. It was just over 4 months ago, the Marvels drop and became the MCU's biggest flop in its history. Then Disney Plus and Hulu walked the trail of tears with Echo, which had, unsurprisingly, abysmal ratings despite being on 2 streaming services and being released all at once.
Yeah, because it was terrible.
I have a question. If a show drops on 2 streaming services, yet nobody watches it, does it make a sound? Anyway, back to the article. On Wednesday night, you could actually watch Madam Web's advance purchase sales declining in real time as buyers were refunding their tickets. Marvel's a major theatrical chain executive. It really says something when you'd rather have Shazam 2 numbers. And what's really sad is the last calendar year has been so bad for superhero films that I completely forgot about Shazam 2. And again, the thing that particularly gets under the fur of the rat in Burbank, and quite frankly Hollywood overall, is sentences like these. Like DC and the once unstoppable Disney Marvel, Sony is now finding itself under the gun to reevaluate how it makes comic book movies. Just in case you're scoring at home, the Access Media has now used the words reevaluate and pivot to avoid stating the obvious. Madam Web joins a troubling trend for the superhero genre. Every live-action comic book movie last year underperformed, aside from Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Regardless of studio, superhero fatigue has evolved from a term used by some corners of fandom to something reluctantly accepted as industry fact.
It is not superhero fatigue. It is bad movie fatigue because a lot of people went to go see Spider-Man. Not as many went to go see the Guardians, but the Guardians was good. And they actually had a proper villain who did bad guy stuff. In the end, it didn't matter what color he is because he played the High Evolutionary pretty well. So they should probably include him in future movies.
Always be a giant market for men and women in tights, but superhero fatigue does exist within Hollywood. Unfortunately for Tinseltown, within its shrinking customer base, there's Hollywood fatigue. Is this the portion of the article where they blame the fans? Well, yeah, kinda. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Sony and director S.J. Clarkson took a wise approach with Madam Web. When there are capes and cows on every metropolis corner, doesn't it make sense to avoid the usual tropes and try for a more grounded feeling superhero thriller with low-key charm, and moreover, make a superhero movie for women and young girls? Sure.
All right. It got me thinking about, like, there's a hamburger joint pretty much on every corner around where I live at. They all sell hamburgers, but they all sell them slightly differently. But they sell hamburgers because they're a hamburger place and they know what their customer base is. So this will be like you trying to sell only eggs, but at a hamburger joint, and expecting your customer base who wants a hamburger to be okay with you selling them eggs only.
Except it didn't work. I don't know if women are enough to carry the box office here. Really? One veteran studio source outside of Sony says, indeed, males make up 65% to 70% of the superhero audience in North America. That hasn't changed, and it will not change.
When I was a kid, I read comic books, and my sister thought it was lame, and most of the girls, pretty much all the girls at the elementary school that I went to, and probably junior high too, thought it was lame too. If you were found out that you read comic books, you got talked about. So I can't imagine that has changed a lot.
Case of Madam Web, the percentage of female viewers was still only 46%. You heard that right. Madam Web failed because of women. Just like with its cinematic predecessor, The Marvels, the film made by women, starring women, for women, wasn't watched by any women. And unfortunately for Disney Marvel, Disney Sony, Warner Brothers, and Hollywood overall, and let's not forget the theaters, it's become painfully clear now that the access media is piling on that the cash cow that was the superhero film has been milked dry, or maybe in this case, the bull's been milked dry. Again, from the Hollywood Reporter, how Marvel is quietly retooling, there's another word, avoiding stating the obvious, amid superhero fatigue. You call it superhero fatigue, I call it a self-inflicted mortal wound, but let's not argue right now. The studio's golden box office aura has been dented. It has been pulverized into dust. But chief architect Kevin Feige isn't scrapping his years-long cinematic universe plan, just refining it. Oh, really? They're not going to give up, says an insider. No, and they're going to fail. And let's keep in mind, Disney, Marvel, and Hollywood just finished the year of the flopbuster, where the Hollywood Reporter even admits that Ant-Man heralded in a year's worth of missteps, box office blunders, and PR nightmares. And they continue because one of those PR nightmares is Madam Web. That's why Disney Marvel was forced to announce the casting of the Fantastic Four on the day Madam Web was released, and a day later released the X-Men 97 trailer. And this brings the Hollywood Reporter to the brilliant conclusion that Disney Marvel had a good February.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
And no, I'm not kidding. But the Disney division is in the midst of a pretty darn good February, all things considered, despite the general gloom that surrounds the superhero genre as of late. And how do they come to this brilliant conclusion? By exposing Disney for its lies and saying it's a good thing. Disney reported that the Deadpool and Wolverine Super Bowl trailer was the most watched trailer of all time, except it wasn't. According to Disney, the trailer garnered 365 million views in 24 hours. Yes, Disney's math includes 123 million people who tuned in for the game, which included just 30 seconds of the trailer. But Super Bowl fudging or not, the clip's reach was an encouraging number. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't think lying about success makes you successful. But that's what Bob Iger's Disney does. They'll wave a lot of surface-level stuff at you, like a Taylor Swift, or even announce a Fortnite deal, which may or may not happen in the next 5 years to impress investors, or lie about a Deadpool and Wolverine trailer. Because quite frankly, people fall for it. Low information investors are becoming just as bad as low information voters for this country. Again, to state the obvious, all Disney does these days with Marvel and Star Wars is announce things. Rarely do they follow through these public-facing moves, because that's all they are, as studio boss Kevin Feige recalibrates the creative direction behind the scenes. Again, for those of you scoring at home, we've heard pivot, reevaluate, retooling, and recalibrate. And don't call it a reboot, even though they're hitting every word in the thesaurus. What it actually is an admission of failure, because it's a massive course correction.
Houston, we have a problem.
In this article, they're actually bragging that there weren't that many reshoots with Agatha, whatever the hell it's called, completely ignoring the fact that there's an entire film, Black Falcon, Captain America, and an entire TV show, Daredevil, being reshot as we speak. And let's not get too excited about the Fantastic Four, where, to be fair, the casting could have been much worse, but it's still going to be a daunting task to convince anyone Pedro Pascal is the smartest man alive.
You ever look at Instagram accounts devoted to you being a heartthrob when you're feeling down?
Yes, I do.
That movie's going to be interesting.
That film is currently on its third rewrite or script polishing from Eric Pearson, famous for Thor Ragnarok and Black Widow, and has the reputation for taking projects over the finish line. In other words, he was hired because he can finish things. Wow. And the Thunderbolts film, which is apparently still happening, has hired Joanna Cola, the showrunner of acclaimed FX series The Bear. She was also the producer on a show called Girl Boss. She also has no real genre experience, which would make her perfect for current year Disney Marvel, and more proof they have no intention of changing. And then The Hollywood Reporter and Disney Marvel say the quiet part out loud about the strikes. The dual writers and actors strike, while costly to Hollywood, ironically gave Marvel some breathing space.
So not that
Suckers.
costly.
It was able to reschedule its movies so that only Deadpool and Wolverine will be released in 2024. Only 2 series,
Which
Echo
sucked.
and Agatha,
And
are
will
bowing
suck.
on Disney Plus this year. So instead of making a bunch of shit, they're just spreading it out. Execs are not calling it a reboot. How dare you even suggest it? Not even a soft one, but more of a creative retooling. A
Okay.
retooling by tools. And it's only because they were forced to do so, because guess what? It's all your fault. This comes from our friend Christian Toto from Hollywood and Toto. Disney exec blames woes on racist, sexist fans. Newsletter reveals corporate arrogance behind Mouse House's fall. Bulwark culture editor Sonny Bunch shared a snippet from a recent Puck newsletter suggesting Team Disney isn't about to change its ways. Again, this comes from an anonymous Disney executive. Everyone says it's the movies, stupid, which is an easy thing for people to say. More appealing movies are a great way to jump the political issues. But more and more, our audience, or the segment of the audience that's been politicized, equate the perceived messaging in a film as a quality issue.
This is how you know you live in a bubble, because you say stuff like that. If a bunch of people are telling you the exact same thing over and over and over again, and those people who are telling you that don't share a lot of stuff in common, whether it's your friends, family, or coworkers or whatever, you should probably listen, because it'll be better for you in life.
State the obvious. It's not the audience that's been politicized. It's the art and the beloved intellectual properties that have been propagandized, making the obvious messaging a quality issue, because everything is shit. I digress. They won't say they find female empowerment distasteful in the Marvels or Star Wars, the latest trilogy starring Daisy.
And these people never acknowledge the fact that your average Star Wars fan loves Princess Leia. So just because they don't like your girl boss character, that don't mean we don't like female characters.
Ridley, but they will say they don't like those movies because they are quote unquote bad.
Because they were.
So quote unquote make movies better becomes code or a dog whistle for quote unquote make movies that conform to regressive gender stereotypes or put men front and center in the narrative, which is what you're seeing now and what Bob Iger's pivot is about right now.
In other words, do not listen to your customer base. We know better, and they eventually will come around to the fact that we know better.
Too bad. Everyone would understand Disney Marvel's greatness over the last couple of years if it wasn't for all those bigots.
This was a good
Never
idea.
mind the fact that the term girl boss is now a pejorative and the MCU is now in the cultural zeitgeist, and Disney's idea of female empowerment has set it back to the 50s. But I think this provides...
All right, if you don't know, that right there was the most powerful being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now. She has all the powers of every character that you know for the last 10, 15 years of Marvel. So will we ever see her again? I don't know.
Provides us with another great opportunity to remind everyone who works in the industrial corporate Hollywood entertainment complex community and the corporate shill community whose fault this really is. Yours. The fans didn't write the Marvels.
Yep.
The fans didn't greenlight Echo. The fans didn't turn Star Wars and Marvel into girl brands. The fans didn't decide to wade into identity
That is
politics.
a terrible
the
costume,
fans didn't
too.
decide to bypass decades of great storytelling in the source material that sold in the hundreds of thousands to jump into the worst era of storytelling in comic book history that sold in the thousands. The fans certainly didn't come up with the term toxic fandom. The fans didn't make the decision to kill off or completely vandalize the beloved characters. The fans didn't put a chick in it and make her lame and gay. But the one thing you can pin on the fans, they were right. So while Disney Marvel spends the next 3 or 4 years retooling, reevaluating, recalibrating, but definitely not rebooting, the fans will have long since pivoted away from you. Hell, things have gotten so bad, even the queen of the MCU, Brie Larson, is out.
Can you tell us a little bit about Marvel and what's coming up for you? Your next Marvel project? Anything to say about that?
Man, look at that face, though.
The term "you can't unmake the soup" does not do this problem justice.
time I see
think it's
that,
more
man, it just
applicable
cracks
to
me
say "you can't uncrap the poop." If you like what you heard, please like, share, and subscribe. If you didn't like what you heard, I thank you for listening this long. I will see you in the next video.
All right. That was pretty good. I like his take, probably because I kind of share it too. I can't believe that you had a winning formula and you managed to let a bunch of people, and this is Kevin Feige, talk you out of just maintaining and just improving your winning formula. I don't know why businesses do that in general, and I truly don't understand how Hollywood thinks that these are good ideas, especially after years upon years of flops and failures. So you would think at this point you realize your customers are telling you the exact same thing over and over and over again. We do not want this stuff, but I digress. So please check out Nerdrotic's video in its entirety so that you don't have my pauses and breaks and on and commenting on top of it. Please like, share, and subscribe if you managed to make it through this entire video with me. Thank you.